Chairman Whitehouse, Ranking Member Kennedy, and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee on Federal Courts, Oversight, Agency Action, and Federal Rights. My name is Lauren Miller, and I live in Dallas, Texas. Thank you for inviting me to talk about how the overturning of Roe v. Wade affected me and my family. Texas's inhumane abortion bans stripped me of my bodily autonomy and kept me from making life and death decisions about my health, my children's health, and the future of my family. My pregnancy was not my own. It belonged to the state. And ultimately, the opinions of Texas politicians and government lawyers completely overrode the medical judgment of my physicians and trampled my constitutional rights to life and health. I was forced to travel out of state for the essential and life-preserving medical care that I desperately needed, an abortion. Several weeks into my second pregnancy, I wound up in the ER following 36 hours of unrelenting vomiting. I was treated for severe dehydration and, just to be safe, they looked at the baby. There is nothing that can prepare you for the shock, terror, and excitement of finding out that you're pregnant with twins. My husband and I embraced this family expansion and immediately began planning. That is, until I learned at the 12-week ultrasound that one of my twins was unlikely to survive. It was shattering. There were so many concerns about his development, including the most devastating diagnosis. Half of his brain was filled with fluid. We went through more testing, more ultrasounds, and the news only got worse. Our amazing medical team kept arriving at the same awful conclusion. One of our twin sons was going to die. It was just a matter of how soon. And every day that he continued to grow, he put his twin and myself at greater and greater risk. The answer should have been simple. I needed an abortion of one twin to save the other and to save myself. Before Roe fell, I would have been able to get that procedure in Dallas, in my own community. But because of Texas's new abortion laws, every single medical professional we spoke with told us the medical care I needed was illegal in Texas. They were terrified to even suggest an abortion for the twin that could never survive. The most helpful and direct information we received came from a doctor who was so frustrated with the situation that after one of our most devastating ultrasounds, he ripped off his gloves, threw them at the trash, and told us, "This baby isn't going to make it to birth. I can't help you. You need to leave the state." Only days later, I ended up in the ER again, so sick that I feared the placenta would detach and I would bleed out. I was dehydrated and shaking uncontrollably as the ER team worked to stabilize me. I was at risk of organ damage to my kidneys and brain, but I still wasn't dead enough for an exception for the abortion care in Texas. An abortion was the best chance we had of saving our other son and preserving my health. Yet there were no options, there were no next steps. We had reached the point where healthcare ends in Texas. I was going to have to flee the state where my family has lived for 8 generations. And I was terrified. Now we had to scramble to navigate the logistics of traveling out of state for an abortion. The bounty laws in Texas had us worrying about who could turn against us. Was it safer to attempt 12 hours in a car through rural Texas while I was violently ill? What if I got worse? We knew flying was faster, but what if I was pulled out of the security line and questioned, or not allowed on the flight because I was too sick? Should we leave our cell phones at home and rely only on cash to prevent being tracked? Exceptions to abortion bans are a fiction. They don't exist in Texas, and I am living proof of that. 2 weeks ago, the Texas Supreme Court issued a ruling in Zarowski versus Texas, a lawsuit brought by me and 19 other women denied vital abortion care in Texas despite facing dangerous pregnancy complications. The highest court in my state refused to provide the clarity patients and doctors need on exceptions. They only said that abortions are not permitted in situations where the fetus has a lethal condition and will not survive, unless the pregnant person is also facing an imminent life-threatening condition. Where does that leave Texans like me? My life was in danger, so was the life of my now healthy son. 18 months later, and I still wake up in a cold sweat, terrified by nightmares of being hunted down. Being pregnant is no reason to be stripped of our human rights to health, life, and liberty. We need federal protection for abortion care right now. This subjugation and dehumanization of women needs to stop. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.